Welcome to Community in a Time of Crisis, Yale, New Haven, and HIV/AIDS, 1981 to 1996. This exhibition, on display at the Yale School of Medicine, tells the story of how the AIDS epidemic of the 1980s and early 1990s affected the people of New Haven, Connecticut, and how a group of individuals from Yale University and the surrounding community came together to fight this deadly disease. The exhibition was organized by the School of Medicine's Program for Art in Public Spaces, or PAPS, a group of faculty, staff, and trainees that works to ensure that artwork in public areas at the School of Medicine reflects the mission, history, and diversity of the school's community. Community in a Time of Crisis was curated by 5 doctoral students from Yale's Program in History of Science and Medicine in collaboration with PAPS. The exhibition draws on materials from Yale University's archives, New Haven newspapers, scholarship on the AIDS epidemic, and conversations with individuals who were part of this history, who generously gave their time and shared materials from their personal collections. The exhibition begins in 1981, the year that the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention first noted in an official publication what soon came to be known as Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome, or AIDS. Within the year, it was clear that the disease was affecting many individuals in the New Haven area, including a disproportionate number of people of color and intravenous drug users, due to a lack of access to healthcare, poverty, and de facto segregation in the city. However, as in other places in the United States, there was no coordinated care response to AIDS in these early years. People with AIDS in the early 1980s faced not only a disease with no cure and no effective treatment options, but also discrimination and institutional indifference. In these desperate circumstances, a group of people affiliated with Yale and neighboring organizations in New Haven came together. They came from different backgrounds and had different sets of expertise, but they put their skills, energy, and compassion together in creative ways to fight the ongoing crisis. This exhibition tells some of these stories. Community in a Time of Crisis is divided into several sections. In one section, the exhibition explores the role of several New Haven-based organizations that provided resources, ranging from counseling to meal delivery, to those affected by AIDS, sometimes in collaboration with Yale. Another section discusses New Haven's groundbreaking needle exchange program, which began in the mid-1980s. A dedicated coalition of Yale and New Haven students, activists, and physicians worked together to distribute clean syringes to intravenous drug users around New Haven. Yale researchers found that the needle exchange program dramatically cut infection rates in New Haven, and the program became a model for similar needle exchanges around the U.S. In the early years of the AIDS crisis, caregiving, activism, and harm reduction initiatives were just as powerful in fighting the disease as clinical treatments. Another section of this exhibition highlights Yale student activists who worked to raise awareness about the disease and the lack of a coordinated response to it, sometimes risking arrest. The exhibition also describes the dedicated and compassionate actions of Yale physicians, nurses, social workers, and administrators who coordinated care for patients with AIDS in the 1980s and early 1990s, often working with limited resources and support. Their work evolved in the mid-1990s with the introduction of combination therapies that transformed AIDS from a fatal illness into a chronic one that could be managed with medication and clinical support. Community in a Time of Crisis concludes with a discussion of the legacies of AIDS treatment, activism, research, and care at Yale and in New Haven, as well as with a piece of original artwork inspired by the AIDS crisis, and a special AIDS quilt that was created for the community organization AIDS Project New Haven and generously lent by its caretaker. Even if you can't visit in person at the Yale School of Medicine, we encourage you to explore the exhibition's website. We hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to the exhibition Community in a Time of Crisis.